Thank you. Actually, all I would need to do would be just to go around the audience and say, tell me your memory of LeeWards, and we would have an hour program. But we're not going to do that. I have a little bit to tell you. And then we are going to have a chance to do some sharing because you have some wonderful stories also. I don't know of any crafter or needlework person who didn't recognize the name LeeWards. Would you agree? Yeah. Especially in the 50s when it became LeeWards, in the 60s, and in the early 90s. So, any feedback?
Well, that was not me. It was turned off.
Okay.
So that's you.
That's I'm feeding.
Not
Anybody here not heard of LeeWards and you just thought it was an interesting name? No, that's what I thought. Okay. Okay. There have been people who have traveled all over to come to Elgin, and I heard one of those stories today, just to come to shop there. So, but it wasn't just needle crafts actually that brought shoppers to the store, and I'd like to point that out today. And that's where and its merchandise comes in also. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, so let's go back in time, and we do need to go back to the roots of this remarkable industry. Thread, all kinds of thread. That was the beginning. The beginning of LeeWards goes all the way back to Western Thread Mills of Chicago. The company was a job dyer, D-Y-E-R, a job dyer for textile mills. And it moved from Chicago to Elgin in 1908. The company built 2 buildings at Bluff City Boulevard and opened in 1910. Now, the interesting or unique aspect of that company was that the springs around the mills provided a quality of water that was so wonderful, so excellent, it made it possible to develop boil-proof colors that only previously were able to be supplied from Europe. So that made it rather unique. But you didn't know that. Go home and tell somebody that. In 1912, Albert Collingborn joined the company. You recognize the name Collingborn, right? And he acquired controlling interest in the company. That was in 1912. In 1914, it was renamed Collingborn Mills, Inc. and incorporated, but wasn't officially renamed until 1924. You can see the Collingborn and the Western Thread Company on early products. I don't know if you can see it on this one, but if you come up later and look at some of the they're pretty much in chronological order. And if you look at some of the boxes and some of the items, it will say Western Thread Company and it will say Collingborn on it. In 1917, then, there were over 700 employees at the company working 2 shifts. So it was a very successful business. And there you go. There you see, and that's up here too. You see the Western Thread Company on the back. This is an early sample card. So they turned out thread. This one would be like after the war, World War I. This is the other side of that card. By the late 20s, Collingborn Mills was one of the largest United States manufacturer of color-fast, boil-proof, artificial silk thread, which was rayon. They also were the largest manufacturer of mercerized embroidery thread and crochet threads. They were a pioneer also in the manufacturing of cotton thread for sewing. You would have thought that would have been one of the first threads, but it really wasn't. Here's an early factory photo. They were coning the cotton yarns. That would have been on Bluff City Boulevard. In 1924, Berkshire and Beckett Silk Company, located in Berkshire, Massachusetts, was purchased. They had pure silk threads, and so that thread then was added to the Collingborn line. Now here's a photo of some of the buildings. The top one is the main, let's see, that's the Collingborn Mills, right? And that was the one on Bluff City Boulevard. Okay. In 1927, the factory added that silk production. Berkshire, they added a factory to house just the silk production, and that was on Grace Street, just south of the main plant. So they were all in the same area. That plant, that silk plant, replaced the one in Massachusetts then. So that company then was located in Elgin.
What year was that?
27, I believe. You know, and I'm glad you asked that question, because some of these years, depends on where you read it, most of them are circa, within a year or two. So just keep that in mind, because not all accounts are totally accurate, but in the 20s. Okay. There we go. There's another photo. By the 1920s, most of the processing of the manufacturing thread, which would include dyeing it, twisting and treating it, winding it on spools, and cutting it into skeins, and packing it for shipping, all those processes were done at the plant in Elgin. It became then, the Collingbourne became the largest independent manufacturer of pure silks in the United States. And you can see on these spools, and they're up at the table too, you can see silk spools and you can see mercerized cotton spools there on wooden spools. Can you believe it? I know my mother encouraged me to collect those wooden spools because they'd be so valuable. It's kind of like Tupperware, right? There's so much of it.
Did they,
Well, they evidently made their own, Jeff.
27, they produced more silk than any place outside of town.
Production here in Elgin.
we're talking about S-I-L-K.
Yes, silk. Mm-hmm.
I thought that was made from a butterfly or a worm.
A worm.
Oh, worm.
Silkworm.
Okay.
Otherwise, yeah,
Okay, so they use silkworm, so not worm.
raise them. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was that done at Elgin?
Yes. When the plant was moved, yeah, and that's how it became the largest manufacturer out in the United States. Yeah. Okay. It's skipping here. Here's some embroidery floss, which I already showed you. That's a very, very popular. You see the Collingbourne Mills box. But they didn't just produce threads. Here's another product, dental floss. Makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. This is a store display from our personal collection that would have, is Collingbourne, gold medal. I guess better than just taking one of these, right, and trying to floss them out. Wouldn't quite work, I don't think so. The sewing products were added to the line also, which made sense to support the sewing industry. Note this one, I love this. The watch factory reference on the card, you see the watchmaker there, and the reference using the recognition as the watch factory's reputation for quality as a marketing tool for their product. And it says, you probably can read that, right? A good mainspring makes a good watch. A good spring makes a good snap fastener. So quite a few companies did that, really used the quality of the watch factory as part of their tool.
I mean,
I doubt it. I doubt it. Yeah, I wouldn't think so. But it would take forever, wouldn't it? Virginia Snow Studios was a name that started to appear on embroidery, crocheting, and knitting items, instruction books, about 1915, and it continued until the late 30s. We don't think there was a Virginia Snow, right? It was just the name that was used for a particular line from Collingbourne. In 1926, though, a separate factory, you see the picture at the bottom there, and it was on the other slide also. There was a separate factory for its line, and it was built and operated as a needlework plant called Virginia Snow Studios. Use that name, but it was part of Collingborn. This is the back cover of another slide here. All right, here's some 1927 Collingborn Mills purchased another company, so they were doing quite well. They purchased Dexter Yarn Company of Rhode Island, and that company was a maker of Dexter knitting yarn. So we're getting into lots of different kinds of threads, right? The kind Grandma used, according to them. Another Dexter Yarns product sold by Collingborn. I don't know about you if you're as confused as I was when I did this, but there are so many names and names that overlap. Collingborn is on the name of several different products, and Virginia Snow Studios, which is really part of Collingborn, and then the Dexter, and Dexter, that name is seen even in LeeWards later, so they all kind of overlap, but they all were part of this Collingborn LeeWards line. I love this one. This is Grandma Dexter. That's the name that came into the Collingborn line, and this is an instructional booklet for applique and patchwork patterns. You see the Virginia Snow Studios at the bottom there. I love this cover, and I picked it because could you get any more product on your cover here? You've got the bedspread that you can quilt, you've got the pillow on the chair, and you've got the rugs on the floor, that rug that you can latch. So I thought that was pretty clever. This is the back side, and it's an interesting combination. There's some aprons you can, patterns, and then the rug, but there's a clock. You see that electric clock that you can purchase? And there's some silverware you can purchase. I'm not sure where that came from, but it was at least being advertised. Some rug patterns. Note the color instructions. That's really appealing. And some stamped patterns. That one's up here. It's for a footstool, and it's easy enough to follow. I think I could even follow that one because it's color coded. You don't have to worry about matching up the color with your thread. So, and here's some more tools from Virginia Snow. It's a rug needle for making rugs. Right? Rug frame pins it's also Virginia Snow to fasten the canvas onto the frame when you're working. To me, they look like thumbtacks. I bet they might be a little longer, but good advertising, right? You know, call it something specific, and you'll buy it, right? Here's another tool. I like this one too. Poinsettia knitting ring. It says you can make floral pillows with it. You can make a mat. You can even make a corsage. The instructions are then on the back side. That piece is up here too. Here's another. This one is pretty easy to date, right? And a completed one. This wouldn't be a seat cushion. This would be something you'd frame and you'd display. There also were kits. So not only did you have the instructions, but all the materials were in the kit also with the supplies. Well, Collingborn Company was hit hard by the Depression. Around 1938, they filed for bankruptcy, and they made plans to reorganize. But during that time, Collingborn Mills then was sold to Rudy Petzelt during that period of time. Z-E-L-T. So he purchased it. The company was name changed again to Dexter Thread Mills. So we kept that Dexter name. And then in 1947, Sidney Fink and Ralph Freed purchased Dexter Thread Mills. The location then of the company was then moved to North Liberty. The old shirt factory was Cutter and Crossett Shirt Factory. That's where the company was moved and focused on their catalog business during this time. So this would be the late 40s. They focused on the catalogs because it was a larger market, obviously, right? The overhead was much lower. We didn't have retail stores, and there were no salaries to pay. Just paying those who packaged the mail order event. So the mail order offices had been in Chicago. So this is when when Fink and Fried purchased it, they brought them to Elgin. All right, here's the fun part. Sidney Fink and Ralph Fried, I just love those names, so I have to keep repeating them because they're so fun to say. They wanted a catchier name than Dexter Thread Mills for their company. So they did a lot of bantering and trying to figure out what to call it. And I guess Fink and Fried just didn't quite make it. Fink and Fried, yeah. So the story goes that they happened to look down at a world globe and they saw Leeward Islands in the West Indies. Leeward Islands, Fink and Fried. Leeward Islands, yeah. LeeWards, Fink and Fried, yeah. I think LeeWards won out, and rightly so. So that's how the name came into being. And that was a... Now, in 1950, then, the first LeeWards catalog was mailed. It was mailed to 25,000 households. It had moderate success, but by the mid-50s, the LeeWards catalog was very profitable and was very successful. A factory store outlet then opened in 1955. Now, this one is what you all know, right? In 1964, the retail store opened. How many of you have been there? Okay. I should say how many.
I worked there.
Yeah.
I worked there.
So by the mid-60s, then, the store volume exceeded $1 million. This was in the 60s. And the mail order circulation was more than 10 million catalogs distributed annually. So this was in the mid-60s, a very, very productive time. LeeWards was a household name, right, in the needle and craft industry.
I was a manager of the store.
Either 1968 or 69, Laura, right? The company was purchased by General Mills. And at that time, there was one mail order facility and one retail store with about 350 employees. Notice the cover there on the sales one. They're promoting both the catalog sales and the warehouse. In 1970, the old McGraw Electric building was purchased. That's on St. Charles Road, still there, right? And mail order operations and administrative headquarters were located there. I'm gonna do this a little early, but if you worked at that facility, would you raise your hand? Yeah, look at that. How about that? The State Street store then became a tourist attraction, and this is where busloads of people would come to shop there from all over Illinois and in the surrounding areas, even other states, Wisconsin and close by. The store was about 250,000 square feet, which is about half an acre. That's a lot of crafts, isn't it? Yeah. They used the store as a testing ground for new products before they offered those items in the catalogs too. In 1977, the annual sales in 30 stores was more than $1 billion. I looked at that more than once in the article. Really? And this was in a 1983 article that was telling the story, and it said more than $1 billion. Now, this is the part that impresses me. In the 70s and 80s, they really had some really good marketing. I see smiles that you probably recognize some of these. There were demonstrations in the store, and some of this is pretty common now, but it probably wasn't. Demonstrations in the store on how to make things, make and take workshops. You come and make it and take it right home. They had classes that they offered in stained glass, candle making wreaths and floral pieces. And these are just some photos from an advertising booklet. And the booklet is pre-1985, probably around 1985. Shows some of the craft items. We're going beyond the threads now, right? Does it bring back memories, crafters? Did any of you make any of these things? And the dollhouse, and don't you know, macrame, it's coming back. Don't you know? I hope you still have those craft kits. The ones you did not finish, right? There are classes in oil painting and in needlework. So they expanded well beyond just their needlepoint to crafts and hobbies. But they kept their needlepoint and sewing items. We have the latch hook rugs. Those were so popular for many years. and knitting and crocheting, right? And there were instruction booklets, and supplies and kits all provided, for these classes, of course, so it's a good marketing. And of course, Christmas. And I saw, where did I put my little kids? Where did she go? Oh, here she is.
It's a hand grenade.
Catch! If you ever made or received one of these, would you raise your hand? Okay, yeah, okay. Lots of these, and we have some of them over there too. These were so popular. I'm not going to comment on. I'm just not going to comment, but they were very, very popular, right? But it wasn't just ornaments. If you look up here, you've got some stockings, and we've got some coasters, and the holiday time was a big time for crafters, right? I would assume that those would be purchased in the summer because you needed time to. Is that when they were put out? Yeah. I know for me, it'd have to be at least summer to get it done. Whoops. We're skipping slides here. That's okay. The mail order market then did decline in the early 80s because of higher cost of postage, because of the cost of paper and printing, and the catalog business did close in 1984. But the retail business then really expanded. By 1985, there were 46 stores, and these numbers, don't hold me to them, but that's what it says. 46 stores. In 1985, then, there were 46 stores, but I wanted to say, in 83, they started in the store to add different departments. There actually was a gourmet cooking area, which you see now in Michael's and other places. So they opened that up in 83, and they were trying to diversify, right? Trying to increase their product and their sales, wanted to expand. In 1985, then, Montford Inc. purchased LeeWards, and then financial difficulties began to occur in the late 80s and in the early 90s. The Michaels we know today, bought the LeeWards chain, and they wanted to expand their market into this area, so it was a good purchase for them. Right, and they bought LeeWards in July of 1994 at a cost of around $90 million. I don't know, is that a lot? Okay. And the State Street store actually closed in 1994, and at that time there were 100 retail stores and more than 2,500 employees. So it was a big business. I had the privilege of talking to Cheryl Steyer, who was an employee from 1990 to 1994. And now I wish I had, there are several people who were employed there, but we had a good conversation, and she was there till the bitter end when it closed, as some of you were. She worked in the profile room in the headquarters that was on St. Charles Street. And the profile room, as I understand it, was the displays were set up for the stores, right? The vendors would bring in their product, and the displays would be set up, and then those were used. Those setups, right, were used then in the stores. Does that make sense? Yeah, I see people nodding, so I think I'm on track there. So that's what the profile room was. So Cheryl worked there. She helped work on display. She also took photographs of things too. But she just loved working there. As did some other people too. Somebody in this room that just said it was a magical time, right? Yeah, just a lot of fond memories, and like a family, and had really high regard for John Popple, the CEO, who was there at the end, right? Yeah, the employees were treated quite well, had the typical Christmas party, annual picnic, employee appreciation night, and I say typical, then it was typical, right? Yeah. They had special discount days for employees and sample sales for just employees, right? And they had a LeeWards craft club just for employees, and they offered classes once a month. They had a newsletter, monthly newsletter, LeeWards, that came out. Isn't that clever? Yeah, clever. But LeeWards also was involved in the community. They had high support in the community too. They participated in Bowl for Kids' Sake, in United Way, Easter Seal Telethon. They supported Larkin Home and other community places too. So they were definitely community focused. Okay. Now, here's where I want to share some interesting items, products that were offered for sale between the 60s and the 90s. And you'll recognize some of them. And some of them you won't. And some of them I just loved. These items have been offered by the History Museum, loaned me some, and Laura Anderson brought some to share, and I know some of you have things to share, and the rest is from our White Rock collection, my husband Jack. And I just went through you don't want to hear this story, but I just went through and found things that were LeeWards in our collection. So here we go. All right. Okay.
Get so excited.
You should be so excited. Okay. Now this one from the museum. This is parachute sewing thread. You ever heard of that? Yeah. Yeah. It's surplus nylon from the war, right? And it was used for mending and sewing, all kinds of purposes. 5,000 feet. So that's a lot of mending, I think. What else do we have? Oh, this one I like too. This was an example of a mail order, something you would order. This is Carlbell, Minnesota. Something. Some bread that she purchased. And what I really like about this is there's an instructional. You can order more if you want. Pure silk, more surplus. But listen to this. It says, save money, send cash. Well, it's more surplus, so yeah. I'm assuming that's World War II. Right? Yeah. 6 cents. Charges to remitted to sender $1.70. MOF, I don't know what that is, 6 cents. So, postage is pretty cheap, right? What else do we have? Oh, this is, everybody has seen this. Yarn. So they never left their yarn, their roots, right? Their yarn and their thread. This one's Orlando. Yeah, the basics of that. And here's something a little different. You may say, well, thread, they always had thread, but this is nylon sewing thread, right? It was not like the early products because it was made of nylon. And my favorite tool, needle threader. How can you not sew without these? My guess is this may have been a giveaway. Great idea. Everybody needs one of those. And then, you don't need to turn yet, Rebecca, because then there were instruction books. Well, go ahead, yeah. There are instruction sheets that were sold, right? And that was a good ploy too, because you sold the sheet, and then of course you wanted all the supplies, so there it was. And this was probably minimal. I don't see the price on it, but I went into one of our closets and I found an instruction booklet. California raisins, do you remember? 1988. California. This is as far as I got. But it's still there. The instructions are here. Yeah, so they sold, this one was, this was 1988, was $4. Yeah, I better get moving on that. My money's worth out. This is something that Cheryl did, the woman I told you about. She took the photos of these. And do they still do this? Look at Michael, the free instructions? Yeah, with camera. Yeah, they do. Okay. All right. Great marketing for you too. You don't have to buy the instructions, but of course you're going to buy all the materials you need. So she was the one that did the photography for the. They have them at home. Do they? Okay. I suppose we shouldn't leave Joanne down either. Yeah. But yeah. Okay, here's a yarn winder. And I'm not going to take it out of the box, but the instructions on the back. You can make skeins of different sizes. It's all done by hand. You know, you don't have to plug anything in. That has the Dexter name on it. And the Speedy Wool Winder. And this one made, it's wonderful, it's simple, yet it's precision built. You can wind up to 2 ounces of wool in only a minute. I suppose it's just fast you can. Right? Yeah. And notice that one also has the Dexter name on it. It was packaged in Elgin. Because I was looking, this one made in Japan specifically for LeeWards, Elgin, Illinois. So that was made in Elgin. This is one of my favorites. It, you know, I could give a prize if anybody ever have this. A lingerie. It even has a thread, and it's got the lace and all the slip and underwear. But what I really love about this is read what it said. Give a gift. I wonder who wrote this. Give a gift you've made yourself. The gift that says, I care enough to take the time. That's my favorite. And it's got the LeeWards sticker, so it's authentic. It really is LeeWards. Well, plus the whole label here. All right, we've got a couple of dolls here. They're not Barbies, but they're close to them. Remember these? They're called Dress Me dolls. You would sew your own clothes, right? All these cakes. And what paper roll? What you call you now it's a big yes. Oh, then you like yes. Well, they have stands, so that makes sense. The cake and the toilet paper. It's funny. This poor girl, because it's a very simple design, of course, and it's rubber bands that hold the arms together, and the rubber band rotted, so it's not happening. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Hey. Standing my notes. Okay. Moving right along here. Here's for children. It's a see and draw copier. And it's very simple design also. It just enlarges. All you need is a desk lamp. And then it reflects into the magnifier, and then you can trace. Yeah, that's kind of cool, isn't it? Yeah, these items were made, of course, at LeeWards, but they were. How did you find all of them? That's a whole other phone. Now everybody, of course, everybody, if you do craft, have these. Craft, they hold tons of them. It is retaped, so there are some missing, of course. I bet those were real popular sales items. And again, the Dexter name on it. Oh, and along with that, we've got the aluminum glitter, and we've got the freeform film thinner. I suppose that would, what would that be for, like if you're lacking something, I don't know. This one says don't put her on kids. But the little thing on the litter, I think it's not something but that one thing either. But they have the Dexter name on them. This one's LeeWards. Okay. Now you've seen most of these, but this one, I like this one. It's a wool cutter. It's for latch hook rugs, so you can cut your own. And we take forever, wouldn't it, to do it for a rug? I suppose that way you can get your colors across. Yeah, and it's all done by hand. And of course they have a lot of ribbon. Just a little bit of satin. Elgin name on it. I'm getting there with firms. Stop. Oh, here's another one that's great. One that's up there with the lingerie. Okay, it's 12 pairs with leaves. You know how you make a table decoration, right? Well, that's the fruit. You can make your own centerpiece for the dining room table. I have never in my life, I've never seen anybody. Right? Yeah, the colors are unbelievable. They're actually, I thought they were started, but they're plastic, and then there's like kind of felt on so I'm not sure. Yeah, okay. Oh, and this is the third of my favorite. Okay, this is the last of my third favorite. Remember? They actually have the LeeWards sticker on the bottom. These were so popular in the 60s. How many of you have them in plastic? Yeah, no, good for you. Yeah. You know, some of them work. There's one for sale that's Marilyn Monroe, not from LeeWards. It's extremely collectible. Yeah, so these I don't know, but that plastic is something else. Okay, and then up forward. Oh, here. Do you want to move Rebecca? I'm out of order. Oh yeah, yeah, the Christmas. We've got the Christmas. So I'm not sure why you use that.
I was working in the store when I met Ruth.
There's an angel. You could hang or you could use it in the. I thought you could put that on the tape too. And then the other Christmas. Oh yeah, the corn husk doll. The reason I showed you that one, I think that's kind of cute. Little sweeper, 3-inch corn husk doll. It was made in Taiwan. I'm kind of glad to see that because look how they spell sweeper. I'm encouraged by that as a teacher. And then Christmas gift. Cartridges are here. Everything you needed. And this one, you know, this is a sample of the so popular ones, the sequin ones. And then the Christmas tree. Like I said, I'm a retired teacher, and I'm sure I got one of these. Because every teacher wants a picture of their child on your Christmas tree. And I say that lovingly. It's fun. Yeah. Well, it's time to check out. And check out means it's your turn to share. Either if you work there, if you have a story, or you brought something to show. I do have one go and tell. This was Jeff and I were married in 1992, so a couple of years before LeeWards closed, and my mom and I went to the outlet, and we were married in our home, so we went and got the artificial, the silk flowers, and we got the tablecloth and our wedding candle. It does not mark LeeWards, but I can verify this. And where do I have? I've got so many things here to share that people brought too. Where's the yarn? Oh, here it is. Here. Yes, good. And the daughter, Carol Anderson, couldn't be here today, but the Nita yarns. Do you recognize that name? Juanita Gamboni. She worked at LeeWards. Yeah, okay, she worked at LeeWards for many years in the 70s, I guess. Yeah, and she worked in the yarn department, right, for the yarn buyer, her daughter said. So they named, in her honor, they named a brand new yarns. A whole line of yarn for her, so that's sweet. Yes. Okay. All right, it is your turn. Do you have a it's the thing gets stuck. They're sturdy. They're sturdy, yeah. If you have a story to tell, and I know some of you do, a story to tell of working there or of something you purchased there or the fond memories you have, it's time to share that. Yes.
I'm here with my sister today, and our mother worked there in the mid-early 70s. Her name was Mary Jane Nielsen, and she worked in the lamp department. And I forgot about those Tiffany lamps that they had in the picture. I more remember like a cylinder made of metal with holes all over it, and you glue little gems or marbles on each one of those mesh things, and then the light goes inside and it glows out the marbles or the artificial gem thingies.
Now, when she worked in that department, what did she do in the department? Did she package it? Did she design? What did she do?
I was 14. I was so involved in myself.
You could care less. That's not an unusual story. Debbie, tell me yours. Debbie is a friend from church, and I think you've got to come and share this story.
So I worked at the factory, which was behind the store on State Street, between my junior and senior year at Northern, and it was a summer job, just rolling your short together. But when we packaged the kits, and sometimes we would give a bonus kit, we'd call out bonus and add extra. They didn't know that. Well, when there wasn't anything for you to do, they would send you the candles. We had them throughout so much candle we could put them in the whole thing. We were
Can't hear it.
working there. It was at the 24th. And they had a little pond next to it called the excitement of all things. And then when we would, for lunch sometimes we would bring our own lunch and we would climb the fence and go over to Wynn Park and eat our lunch again. It was fun memories. My sister worked there also with me, and she was finishing up her master's at Northern, and they wanted her to come back and lead along me. Luckily, she did. But it was a fun place. Yes.
Well, I love that story where Debbie said, "Well, sometimes we just have a bonus day." Well, thank goodness that the store's closed, so nobody can come after you. But I love that. Yeah, kind of like Lucille Ball with
Yeah.
Yeah. 1967 until 94, and I first worked in the back part of the department. I came in after deciding I didn't want to go to college anymore, and it was just a job. And then I stayed for 17 years. So it was I led the transportation area. This was Cabbage Patch dolls. And we had Cabbage Patch doll heads that we sold so that you could build a body. And there were massive stampedes at the stores where they got doll heads, and it was just like how Cabbage Patch doll. It was just at the store. And I didn't work in the store, but I remember. It was okay. Time to record it.
Yeah, those items that were pushed down. Do you have a question for her?
Did the Cabbage Patch doll kits
Did they get belly buttons?
Well, you made your own, because I bought one of them.
Yeah. The reason I asked is and I don't have the doll, it's now in the possession of our great granddaughter, was made for our daughter. And when mother made it, and she was an obstetrical nurse, and the doll did not have a belly button. So she gave it a belly button. And I'm wishing that it was here.
Yeah, yeah.
I was there at the end of the designer. What a lot of people didn't know, right before we sold out, they were going crazy. You were the show on TV. You couldn't remember. He would make stuff and put on the show before it goes into design, and you'd put it together in parts and then somebody would display it. And the other thing that was really cool, we did near the end of the book that it ended because we remember growers. We started LeeWards, that was a subscription, and we told it it grows.
Oh.
There's only a couple of them that have extra books with those, but you said we had to go ahead and it was a fun job.
Yeah, that, I haven't heard anybody say, oh, it was awful. Yeah.
Well, LeeWards does, and nobody else has ever done. They would have a sample making, we would design the stuff, and then there was a sample made, and they would put all the finished product to all the stores, and they would put it up so that you could see what the actual finished product looked like. And nobody else does that. Nobody does that anymore. So that was a fun.
And didn't,
Yeah, I still have
Yeah.
two of those sample ones up on my living room wall.
Kathy, I love that. That's what I would do. I think I'd go buy the sample and people. Yeah, yeah.
My wife, whose maiden name is Caroline, she worked on the second floor and she only counted sequins.
I brought something. Here we go.
After mother died, and I had to go through her stuff, I'll let you hold them up. I'm doing stuff in my stash. My mother's been dead for 11 years. Placement. Or placement.
Very pretty.
They're horrible, right? That was something she never started. And I couldn't throw it away.
Anybody else bring anything that? I think pretty, you'd almost hate to use them. Yeah. Frosted. Yeah, county frosted, yeah. Much nicer than California raisins. More. Very, very nice. And Laura Anderson brought quite a few items. Laura, I'm gonna show this one last one, then I'm gonna point out the clock and the fourth one. It's very nice. Thanks, those of you.
Obviously.
The clock Laura you said was cool embroidery. And that was a real popular. You please come up and look. And there are four of these. Four seasons. And you said this was needlepoint, but the most one of the most popular designs. Back then, early 70s. Early 70s. Okay. Yeah. So there are four up here. Catalogs. Lots of catalogs to look at.
And we also put out a lot of the Christmas ornaments that we have in our collection on the chandelier for the decoration.
That, and these are from that time. Yeah, we have some that we don't need. And this quilt, baby quilt, is a LeeWards kit. And the woman's name, sorry, she didn't live in Elgin, and her name is in here somewhere. She donated all her baby quilts to us that were finished. Let me find her name. And she actually wrote an article, the avid quilter, she wrote an article about LeeWards. Wildermuth, thank you, Susan, yes. But the thing I also noted that I thought was really interesting when you talk about designing, that a lot of the ornaments or the kits were designed by people working in it, right? They weren't necessarily professional designers all the time, but they were people that designed the items, which I think makes them real special too.
I even brought little kits that were like broken open and not all of the parts were in there sometimes. So we had to improvise.
Well, thank you so much for your attention.